Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's Business Process Tech Talk. Today's topic is Business Process Excellence for Sellers and Pre-Sales, Positioning and Value Alignment with the Business Process Catalog in Mavim. My name is Mandy Tovez, and I will be your moderator today. We are broadcasting this session through Teams Town Hall. The session is being recorded on behalf of the Microsoft Corporation. When you join this event, your name and email address may be viewable by session organizers. By joining, you're agreeing to this experience. If you do not consent to be a part of a recorded session, please disconnect your line at this time. The recording will be made available in the Tech Talk section of the Community Dynamics page within about 5 business days. If you have questions for the presenter or need support, please use the Q&A panel located on the right side of your screen. We will be responding to your questions throughout the session and in a live segment at the end of the presentation. Thank you for your patience during these announcements. Presenting for us today is Henrik Jaeger from Microsoft, a Fast Track Solution Architect. We also have from Mavim, Leonard van Leuven, a Value Engineer. Henrik, over to you to start the Tech Talk.
Thank you, Mandy. So just to give a quick introduction to myself, as Mandy said, my name is Henrik Jaeger. I am a Fast Track Solution Architect working for Microsoft. I come from a background of implementing through a process-driven approach, which is what I would like to share with you today. If you want to follow me on LinkedIn, feel free to do so. You're also welcome to reach out to me should you have any questions regarding the content of today. Leonard?
Yes, thank you, Henrik. Hello, everyone. My name is Leonard van Leuven. In the role of a Value Engineer within Mavim. And today I will do a small demonstration of the Business Process Catalog inside the Mavim tooling for you. Back to you, Henrik.
Thank you. So what will we cover today? Well, I'm kind of apologies. 5 key topics, headlines that we will go through is the shift towards process-led selling. What does that mean? What does it look like? And kind of framing the whole conversation that we're going to have today. Then I'm going to give you a brief introduction to the Business Process Catalog, to a little bit about success by design, and to the Mavim platform, before we move into why process-led selling wins the deals. Then, as Leonard said, we're going to have a short demo of the Mavim platform before I will round it off with takeaways and call to action. So first of all, the big thing here is the shift from feature-led to process-led selling. So what does that really mean? First of all, and you may have experienced this yourself, but features don't decide the deals. It is not the features that the customers really decide on. What they decide on is the confidence that you as a partner understand their business, can help them get there, and the confidence that they can see themselves in the solution being proposed. I've tried to kind of position the two approaches against each other here in a very summarized form. When you're doing the feature-led selling, you're often you end up in debating comparisons. That doesn't really give you what you need to close the deals. There's no confidence around it. Whereas if you do a process-led selling approach, you're going to show them exactly what they're going to get, exactly what will change, and that is going to give you their confidence. The feature-led selling, it relies quite heavily on assumptions, on interpretations, and that's where things go wrong, not just in a sales phase, but also when you actually get to the delivery. If you adopt a process-led selling approach, you replace these assumptions and interpretations with evidence, because you're actually going to show them their processes. You're going to show them where they're going to deviate from the standard processes, and where there may be gaps to the standard product, but it's all clear and transparent. Also, you'll find that kind of if you're just selling features, it becomes quite an abstract, what I've called digital transformation talk, rather than kind of with the evidence of processes. You can more have the discussion around this is how your business runs, and this is how Dynamics will support it. Again, that builds the trust and the confidence on the customer side that this is actually something that will work for them. And they will also much earlier be able to flag if there are discrepancies between what they're seeing and what their business does. So you will catch it much earlier. And then finally, we've all seen it. Deals can stall, then they'll quietly die simply because they can't make a decision. And again, here, the change, if you do the process-led selling, the change for the customer will feel much more controlled. It's not a risk in the same degree that kind of if we do the, let's call it the normal feature-led selling approach. So this is kind of the essence of what it is that we're trying to really promote here with the help of Mavim. So before we can really dive into this, let's just set the foundation for what is required for process-led selling. We have the business process catalog, we have Fast Track's Success by Design framework, and we have Mavim as the platform. So first of all, for those of you who are not aware of the business process catalog, it is a structured catalog of end-to-end processes that is designed specifically for Dynamics 365. It breaks down the business outcome into scenarios and steps. So again, you can focus on the business side of the equation rather than just features and functions. It also provides, and this is to me the real differentiator here, it provides a common language between business and technical teams, whether that is the partner implementation team or it's the internal customer IT team. It all, with the business, it all becomes a common language. It means everyone speaks the same. So when someone talks about how they do funds on credit notes, there is only one interpretation of it. There's one version of the truth. So that is really important, kind of a reason for doing this. Why is it important for partners and customers? Excuse me. It accelerates by grounding solution in proven standardized processes. It strengthens the alignment with Success by Design. I'll come back to that. It improves the scope clarity, the governance, and the traceability early on, which is really important for you as a partner, making sure that you do not go into a deal where you're going to have kind of a cost overrun or an unhappy customer. And then finally, it shifts the task-based execution that we're all used to into more process-driven outcome. So those are the kind of the key things around the process catalog. When you get the slides, I have two links at the bottom that you can peruse. One is an introduction where you start with what is the business process catalog, and if you want to dive into it, there's also a download link for where you can download the business process catalog. So as I said, it is built for Dynamics. I'm not going to dive into the details here, but just to show you that on the CE side, each Dynamics 365 product maps to a core end-to-end business process, whether that is customer service, project operations, field service, sales, you name it. Similarly, on the finance and operations side, we have a clear mapping on kind of supply chain with source to pay, inventory to deliver, plan to produce, design to retire, finance, record to report, acquire to dispose, human resources, and if you want to hire to retire. So it's all covered by the business process catalog and aligned with the Dynamics 365 products that you know. I just want to give you, there's a lot of information in the process catalog. I just want to give you a little bit of kind of a slice below the surface in terms of that the business process catalog, we have 6 levels. So in a sales scenario, you will not use all 6 levels. But I'm kind of level 1, 2, 3 that we've called system agnostic here. That is the basis for your discussions with the customer. You can base your conversations with the customer and your exploration into what the scope should be based on that. You then have level 4, and that's, as I see it, probably the lowest level you will get to in a sales scenario, where you actually start diving into the product. So you know what the process scope is going to be. Then you will also be able to map that to the product or products that you are trying to sell to the customer, and then use that as a foundation for scope for securing the customer's understanding, and kind of all the work that you will then do from then on, kind of in terms of getting the customer on board and securing a sign off. So that is at a high level what the business process catalog is. So if we then move into, there we go, success by design. And again, this is not a presentation as such about success by design, but success by design is a framework that we have developed within the Fast Track team. And with the help of Mavim, we can really explore this and to collaborate with the customers in terms of realizing value from both dynamics, from Copilot, from agents, from AI, you name it, by embedding the business process clarity into every phase of the success by design. And in terms of success by design, we have kind of 5 phases, and it will look very much like you've seen from other places. We start with strategize, and that's where we're going to be most of the time in terms of the sales motion. We would then, when you have sign off, you go into initiating the project. You would then implement the project. You would prepare for go live, and then finally you would operate. And so let's see how all of this can be supported by the business process catalog and Mavim. So first of all, if we look at the strategize, so this is where we are initially talking to the customer. We haven't actually got a project yet, but we need to get them on board. We need to win their trust. We need to build their confidence in you as an implementation partner. So first of all, by using this approach, it creates a shared understanding of the business processes. And you might be surprised how often within a customer's organization they are not clear on their business processes. So this is actually, even here, it is valuable to the customers. It also helps you determine what process areas and processes are in scope. So when you actually get to quote the customer to estimate the cost of implementing, you have a very clear definition of this is the scope that you have, rather than a kind of features and functions. What is it that the customer will need? Here it's very clear. You have the processes. You will even have the deliverables within the business process catalog. So it's very clear for you to say, this is in scope, this is not in scope. And then the final thing in terms of sales is that there is a shared understanding of both the vision for the solution, but also the business drivers. Why is the customer doing this? That will also come out of having a process-led discovery in the sales phase. If we then move on to the initiate, so this is where you start doing what we call discovery workshops. You may have already in your strategize done some kind of light discovery to nail down this is the scope, these are the processes. But that just means that it's so much easier to transition into these discovery workshops. It's much easier to do fit to standard analysis on the processes, you will be able to make process adjustments to fit the business needs. And what Leonard will show you later on is that's very intuitive in Mavim. And actually, you may even be doing that during the strategize phase of this. so that you actually, before going into, signing a deal with the customer, that you've actually done process adjustments to fit the scope and the needs that they have. Standard implementation, we're going to implement. There will inevitably be new information, better understanding. So you would either make changes, additions, updates to the process information as you identify the changes. You would also be able to translate these processes, the process information, the scope that you have, into Azure DevOps. So rather than setting up all your work items manually, we can actually not just give you the whole thing, but actually what I would call a tailored transformation of the scope into Azure DevOps. So that becomes your work items. It's very clear what should be done, what is in scope, what is not in scope. And then finally, you would also work on creating detailed deliverables to the implementation of these processes, and that is all managed within Mavim. Prepare. This is where you need to be careful about getting the organization on board. So I'm having a process-focused approach will boost adoption. It is possible from Mavim to provide deep links from processes into the Dynamics products, so that you can actually, visualize the link from, this is my process going through step by step, click, and you go into the Dynamics product that is relevant for that process. And ultimately, we see more and more customers being interested in Copilot and agents. You will be able to integrate the agents much better if you have a clear view of the business processes that are within the customer organization that you work with. And then finally, operate. The customer's gone live, and this is where often in the traditional approach to implementation, you'll find that documentations become stale. We are seeing more and more of a requirement that in this AI world, we need to have a living solution documentation. And again, here, Mavim can really help with that, keeping the documentation up to date. And in addition to that, there are features around process mining that you use for optimization of the document, of the processes. My apologies. And also, it helps you facilitate the continuous improvement that really can give value to the customer, whether that is an activity that you will take on to guide the customer through, or the customer has their own team. This is very much something that the Mavim platform will support. So we've talked about the business process catalog. We've talked a little bit about Success by Design, which is our fast track framework, and how it supports that. So what is actually Mavim? So Mavim is a platform. It is built on familiar tools, so Microsoft technologies, Microsoft Office. There's no necessarily a steep learning curve to get on board with this. It will become your single source of truth in terms of processes, so both in terms of who, why, what, and relationships between the various components is all documented within the Mavim platform. So you have a clear view of the process knowledge that is required. It comes I wouldn't say out of the box with business process catalog, but it is ready for it. It is an easy deployment from this, but still, excuse me, it is an open platform that really allows you to integrate into your delivery tools that you already have. As it is built on familiar Office tools, things like SharePoint and Power Automate is something that you will be able to use for integrating with your already existing delivery tools. We then have it is not just for it's not just one repository and everyone sees the same. We of course have various audiences where you have both a Mavim manager, so where you can manage your processes. You have and my apologies, I said role. It's 3 tools for 3 different audiences. My apologies. Mavim Manager is the tool that you will work with in terms of processes, process management, and especially if you have. My apologies. I'm using my voice here. If you have such as a center of excellence, a solution architects, that's where they would be at home. You have the Mavim Improve, which is the second tool, and that is the the process and content editor. Easy to use, gives you an overview of the process. If you're a process owner, you will have access to your processes. You can model them as you should within the tool. And then finally, the third string to this is the Mavim Portal, where that is of a read-only publication of the single source of truth, but it means that you can publish it to a broader audience with the safety that they can't just go and update everything as if it was a Word document, but you can capture the feedback that will feed back to updates within the tool. So this is how the the life cycle of the process tools will be, that you have your process owner, you have your solution architects, your owners, and then the audience feedback can be incorporated for this continuous improvement. Then the last 2, process mining. Well, you have your processes documented within the tool. Process mining is I would say something that I hear a lot of customers talk about, but they don't know how really to approach it. And it's very obvious that in order to do process mining, you need a strong foundation within the processes. That is exactly what you have with the Mavim platform. So that the fact that it can then use that for process mining, so that you can dive into and understand your processes. Where are your deficiencies? Where's your return? Your return process? Where is that running in a loop? How many times do they need to reach out to customer service? That is all information you will be able to get out of process mining, and that is built into the platform. And then finally, Mavim, like anyone else, AI. So this is where you will Mavim can create Azure AI indexes on your process repository. So that allows you to ask questions in natural language about the processes and other informations that you maintain within the Mavim platform. So that is very much the whole platform. It is as in Microsoft's tool of choice for building and maintaining processes and the business process catalog. So this is the foundation for being able to do the process-led selling. So if we move on, why is it then that process-led selling wins? Well, first of all, let's look at what are the stumbling blocks that we see in the world of dynamics and AI deals. First of all, assumptions and interpretations. I would almost say if you're lucky, you will find that you have the wrong assumption, the wrong interpretation early on before you sign the contract with the customer. so that you do not end up with large cost overruns. If you're unlucky, you will only realize much later in the process, and that's where you start bringing the implementation project at risk. So not only will a process-led sales approach, not only will it help you win deals, but it will also help you win them profitably. So you're not going in with estimates that are not based on evidence. They're not based on the evidence of the processes. It really gives you a safer sale, but also allows you to transition more smoothly into the actual delivery of the project. So the delivery, which makes sure that you also get, the profit that you were hoping for when you were selling the project. Also, we find often that process knowledge is tribal. It's in someone's head. It's not documented. It's inconsistent. So even just by going in and taking this approach, you will find customers who really see that as a value. And again, if they start seeing value already in the sales phase, there's a much higher likelihood for them to have confidence in you as a partner, in the product and processes that you are going to implement for them. We also see that customers want AI, but don't know where it belongs. Again, with the process catalog, for example, our own first-party agents, they are in the level 4 layer of the business process catalog. And you will be able to incorporate your own, whether that is agents, your own IP, and I'll come back to that, into the business process catalog within Mavim, so that you have both the power of the Microsoft standard, but also your own IP, your lessons learned, your experiences, maybe industry focus, can be managed within Mavim. And then, I talked a little bit about it. Go live happens, documentation dies, and this quite often has an impact on adoption. It can also have an impact on how the solution is used. So this is where, in my experience, I've often seen that customers come back with change requests, but because you don't have the documentation, those change requests becomes customizations rather than a talk about what is it they want to achieve, rather than I want to click this button and X happens. If you have the process documentation readily available, you can easily talk them through the whole process around this, which also leads to fewer customizations. So you've seen this one before, but I just want to say, again, it is not the features that decide the deal. It's the confidence that the customer or the prospect has in you as a partner that wins you the deal. And again, you'll be able to show them what it will look like. You will show them what changes. You will replace the assumptions with evidence. You'll be able to talk to the customer about this is how your business runs, and this is how Dynamics will support it. And again, that gives them that feeling of the change being controlled and not a risk to take you on as a partner. There's many things that we could dive into. One of the things I wanted to highlight is actually the ability within the sales motion to be able to prove value. So you could see you have a process. You can actually simulate changes to this process within the Mavim tool and visualize it to the customers. So this is where rather than only relying on slide decks and demos, you will actually be able to get to the real to the answers of the real questions that the customer or the buyer has. And these simulations, if you will make the change tangible before anything is even built within the system. So it allows you to model the future states, align with capabilities and the governance from success by design. You compare it current state, future state. You'll be able to highlight where if efficiency is gained, risk is reduced, where AI can add value. And finally, be able to demonstrate kind of the expected impact before the contract is signed. Again, allowing you to win that trust with the customer, give them the confidence that you kind of will give you the deal. And I guess here, kind of what I've heard often is that, oh, but simulation is an extra step that you do. I'm kind of, well, maybe not, but it is a faster and safer way to get you to a close of the deal with the customer. So I've called it one asset, two payoffs. I guess it is actually two assets because it's the business process catalog and Mavim. But what I wanted to really highlight here is that, well, you're in the sales motion. You do sales, you do pre-sales. There you start kind of gathering your fit gap. You'll be able to use simulations to get the customer on board, make them confident in what you're doing. That means when you get to your statement of work and you have a really strong foundation for a scope that is linked to processes. So it's not just linked to features where an interpretation could kind of be the decider whether it's 10 days or 100 days that is required to deliver that. You will have a much firmer scope, therefore leading into better estimates that you can tie into your statement. You will then get to the handover. So from sales, you've won the deal, you hand over to your delivery. This is not the work that has already been done is not going to be thrown away. It is actually the foundation. It is already a deliverable for the delivery team, who then work it into kind of working with the implementation portal, because the business process catalog links into that with Mavim, the delivery of the project, and then after you've delivered it, you have the whole process mining and optimization. So it is really kind of, don't see it as sales and delivery. Solid delivery starts with sales. That is, I guess, one of the takeaways here. And with that, I'm going to hand over to Leonard so we can see what Mavim actually looks like.
Yeah, thank you, Hendrik. Let me share my screen. And I think my screen is visible now. And indeed, let's have a look at how the business process catalog looks like in Mavim. I sometimes like to call it like, okay, we bring the business process catalog to life. We're like a visualization tool, process management tool on top of the process catalog. Because the catalog is great content, but I think if you want to use it, especially in the sales phase, it's really good to have a visual navigation on all those processes. So what we see now is that Mavim portal, and it allows you to really easily browse through the entire business process catalog when you're meeting with a potential customer for like the first time or like the second time, and you want to understand what the customer is actually doing and what do they want from Dynamics 365. So by default, we see here on the screen the 15 end-to-end processes for the business process catalog. And then basically everything is clickable here. So you can start off with the concept to market, and then we saw Henrik showing like the levels 1 to level 3, and then 4, 5, 6 for the more detailed content in there. Well, that's actually what we see here live. So the blue line is the level 1, the 15 end-to-ends. And then by clicking on concept to market, we see the level 2 popping up in here. For design to retire, we can do that. Prospect to quote, order to cash, and then we can see all those levels. And then within, you can say, okay, I'm going to click on one of these level 2, for instance, manage the sales orders. And then we're at the level 2, manage sales orders, and that's where we see the level 3 processes. And in Mavim, you can click on each of the processes, and then the actual visual diagram pops up. So really easily, you can click through all these processes and well, definitely put that process-led sales into practice by directly showing the customer. If we're talking about Dynamics, well, these are the processes that the Dynamics covers, and then see what's in there. You see that all the processes look more or less the same. This is an example, and maybe jumping a bit quickly now, but this is like in the implementation phase. So maybe this is not a good picture for the sales phase, but in the implementation phase, this is how you can then really customize processes tailored toward the exact needs of the customer. So with the different colorings, you can indicate what is different. If we see that there is a gap, how the customer organization works compared to the standard Microsoft process, well, then you can open up Visio inside Mavim and make the changes so that, well, as Henrik just told, do like the simulation. Customer, you're telling us that the process should work like this, and then you can visualize that here in the process diagram before you even start building it into Dynamics. Well, also really important in here is that we have the success by design delivery plan, as Henrik already showed. So that's also integrated in here, and all the areas of success by design are also in here and are mentioned in here and are documented in here. It's kind of like the same information that you can also see on the Learn side from Microsoft, but now you have it directly available inside your process management tool. And we also learned that, quite quickly you will do like workshops with customers on first like high-level workshops. What is a high-level in scope, out scope, to ultimately prepare that statement of work. But then also in the real initiate discovery phase, you will probably have more detailed workshops. And Microsoft also provides in here a large set of default workshops to explain to you what can you do or what can you discuss about the processes. And then, for instance, if we take a look at one, for instance, like the design to retire scenario board discovery workshop, that's like a workshop you do really high level on the end-to-end process design to retire. Then you get something like this, and I will expand it a bit, that it's a little bit more visible. But basically, it shows you the level 2 process areas within design to retire, and then in there the major discussion points towards the customer. Are you doing products and products? What variants do you work with? Do you work with configuration of products, or do you work with product sizes or product coloring? Are you retiring products, or how do you do that? And again, you can highlight what is important in here. And what you can do in here is, for instance, okay, well, manage active products. Yes, that's what we're doing. And then in here, you can directly specify. There you see that there's all information, but specify like, is it in scope or is it out scope? So really early in the sales phase, you can already do some level in here and say, okay, what is in scope and out scope? That then actually comes back directly in your dashboard in Mavim, like the implementation dashboard. And this is the detailed one, but I want to show like this one. So based on those high level discovery workshops, level 1, level 2 in here, quite quickly you can discuss with the customer. Tell me what is in scope or what is out scope, and that is then automatically reflected in this dashboard. Customer could, for instance, say, well, for HR we use a different tool, so HR processes are not in scope, and the rest is in scope. And we divided that, so there's part 1 and there's part 2. In total, there's the 15 end-to-end process with all their level 2 areas in here. And black means, hey, we haven't discussed it yet. You haven't set any scoping. It's still unspecified in here. Then also really helpful, I think, in the sales phase already. Let's have a look at a specific process in here. For instance, manage bills of materials. And Let's make it big on the screen so that you can see it. Again, in this case, it's already modified to some more details. I will come to that in a bit. But basically, what can happen is that if the end customer is completely new to Dynamics, they can see, okay, yeah, I understand. We do have bills of materials. I understand the process in here, but how does this then work in Dynamics F&O itself? Well, what Mavim then allows you to do is jump directly from the process into, in this case, F&O, and open up the right screen in F&O where you actually do the bills of materials. So we see that this can be beneficial directly in the sales phase if Dynamics is completely new to a customer, but also like in the prepare to go live phase when you do training, when you do adoption sessions. Again, this can really help where end users can familiarize themselves with the process and then directly see that they can jump into F&O. Of course, when you actually start working with Dynamics, not every day you will open up Mavim and come here, but there's also the option for the other way around. If you are working in Dynamics 365, we have the option to enable this processes tab in the help functionality. And by clicking that, it will show you what are the relevant processes in Mavim for the current screen that you're on. So that can be really helpful again for end users that are working in Dynamics but want to know a little bit more on the processes. And well, this has been here for quite some time already. What's actually relatively new now is that we also have the AI integration. So from your Mavim repository, you can create like an AI index that captures everything of your entire process model that you started off with a catalog by default and then enhanced or configured exactly to how the organization is working. And then that index can be used with AI chat functionality. We have that inside Mavim, but for now, I can also show that inside the Copilot sidecar inside F&O. So you can extend the standard Copilot for F&O with the knowledge source coming from Mavim with all your process knowledge. And that means that you now can start asking a question. And well, I copied one. For instance, if I'm working on this bills of material page and I made a change, I could wonder of myself, who actually needs to approve the bills of materials? Well, that's a question I can now ask in here. And then Copilot with the knowledge of Mavim in there should be able to give me an answer. And well, it actually says the quality manager is responsible for identifying and the final approval rests with the quality manager. So now I know that it is the quality manager. If I want to fact check this, then of course I can click on the reference here, and that brings me directly into Mavim and shows me the process diagram. Let's wait that to open. And then, well, we come back to the same process we saw earlier about managing the bills of materials. Let's make it a little bit bigger. And also that's what I want to show here. So this is a slightly customized process. By default, the approved bill of material is in the lane of the product manager. But in this case, the organization said, no, in our case, the quality manager needs to approve and needs to identify the bill of materials. So we made a change in the process diagram in here, and that is basically enough to tell Copilot that this is the way we work in the organization. So by defining your processes using Visio in Mavim, that is then triggered into your specific model, your AI model that tells about your organization, and that can be used inside F&O in here. Well, there's much more to tell about Mavim, how you can change things, but that's covered in lots of the different tech talks we're doing. So this is what I want to show now for the sales phase of using Mavim and the BPC. Back over to you, Henrik, for the rest of your presentation.
Leonard, we actually have a couple questions specific to Mavim, so I wondered if we shouldn't answer them now.
Okay.
The first one, can you edit business processes directly in Mavim? And do you need a Visio license in order to do edits?
Yes and no. So yes, you can definitely change the diagrams here in Mavim. And basically, if you have the Mavim license, that comes automatically with a Visio license. So if you have the Mavim license, you also have Visio in there, and you can directly open up the Visio and start making changes in the diagram here. Yeah.
All right, thank you, Leonard. And the second one, does the different L1 through L4 visualizations shown in Mavim come out of the box when importing the business process catalog, or would one need to design each visual and the MSBPC is simply the framework?
No, that's a good question. We saw earlier on the slide from Henrik that there was a link to like the download center. If you have the Mavim environment, then you can, from the download center from Microsoft, you can directly download the full Mavim import file, and it has all the visuals that you now see. So all the level 1 to 4 visuals, and all these process diagrams are by default in there with just one click of an import of a Mavim import file.
Awesome. Thank you, Leonard. And if there are more questions, please make sure to post them in the Q&A panel. Over to you, Henrik.
Thank you. Let me get back to, so yeah, I hope you saw in what Leonard demoed, that kind of how easy it is to get an overview of your processes that you have in the Mavim tool, how easy it is to actually do the simulation work kind of online with a customer or in real time with a customer, kind of defining their processes, starting with the out of the box. I hope you saw or got an impression of how easy it is to work with. And that is the key thing here, because one thing is to have a process foundation, but be able to actually kind of interactively work with it. That is going to make a real differentiator for you, both in terms of your sales motion, but also when you actually get into really implementing what you've sold. So I'm to round this off, I just wanted to talk through some takeaways and give you a call to action. So first of all, the process focused approach drives the whole life cycle. It's not just to win the deal. It is not just to deliver the project. I hope you can see that by adopting taking a process-led approach to sales, it also helps you feed into the delivery, so that you have a consistency. You have built a relationship with the customer. They trust you as an implementation partner. And that will just continue that work into the delivery. So you already have a foundation. You don't start with a blank sheet of paper when you go into the workshops with the customer, because ultimately, as it says here, the processes are the glue that holds your whole customer journey together, from pre-sales to post go live, and that is really key to take that away with you. So if you look at it in terms of sales and pre-sales, you'll have a much stronger alignment between IT, business, and the implementation partner. It makes the business process more explicit. It's visible early on. If there are gaps, if there are changes, you will be able to talk into, is this like a commodity process where you will just adopt whatever Dynamics does out of the box, or is this a value adding or differentiating process where you may look at, should we do something specific to enhance this differentiation that your customer's business have, because that also makes them stronger in the market that they're in. It clearly connects the processes to the Dynamics capabilities and even to the AI use cases, and I hope you could visualize that with the demo that Lennon did. So it makes it much easier to see how it's going to be used. And it gives you a much clearer scope definition. So that means you can be clearer, you can be more tighter on the scope definition in terms of what is, because you have that you don't have the assumptions and the interpretations, you have the evidence from the processes that allows you then to also be tighter in terms of the cost to your customer, or the price to the customer. When you then take the next step in, you have a cleaner kind of first time right implementation, as I would call it, and you'll have fewer post go live challenges, because the apologies, I have a phone ringing. Give me 1 sec. There we go. So the whole business process catalog and Mavim will be your backbone for actually kind of securing your Dynamics configuration. We can talk about almost process-led configuration rather than kind of configuration to make features work. It reduces the over customization that we often see simply by having that clarity in terms of what is standard, what are exceptions, and even if there are for the customer an exception, is it really a value adding exception that you have that should be customized rather than managing the customer or guiding the customer towards a standard feature of supporting that particular process. And then you have the shared language between IT, business, and implementation partner, which cannot be overstated, the value that gives you in terms of the whole interaction with the customer. And then finally, I'm kind of post go live. It is the foundation for continuous improvement, and kind of everything has to be around AI and agents. I'm aware, but it also helps with the agent adoption, because it ensures the adoption of not just Dynamics but also AI and agents, because it is embedded within the processes. You can continue to improve by reshaping the business processes and kind of diving into it through process mining to understand how the processes work. Are they optimal? Could they be better? And then it connects your Dynamics platform or the systems to the entire operational model of the customer. So I really hope that you can see it's not only going to help you win the deal because of the confidence of the trust that you build by talking processes, by talking business to the customer and showing them rather than just talking about it. But it also gives you additional benefits throughout the life cycle of the deal, of the delivery, but also for the customer after the go live. Wanted to come back to this one. It is so key that it is not the features that decides the deal. It is the confidence that you build, because as the subheading says here, I'm kind of on paper, Dynamics 365, it does everything that the customer asks, but so does all the competitors. What you're really going to win this on is a clear shared view of how the business runs. And that is by eliminating the assumptions and interpretations, replacing it with evidence. It is going away from the abstract talks about digital transformation into actually talking business. This is how your business runs, dear customer, and this is how we can implement Dynamics to support it, to help you as a business. And it also gives them that, feeling that change is controlled. It is not a risky thing. You would still need to have change management during the implementation, but you certainly have a head start in terms of what the customer feels about this. So quickly, lead with process, not feature. The process clarity is a deal accelerator. It is less effort, but at the same time, it will bring you ahead. Simulate before you sign. It is a faster, safer way to close. Not only do you build the confidence with the customer, but also the confidence internally in your organization, so you know exactly what is the scope that you need to estimate for and what needs to be in the statement of work. So it's not just about winning the deal, but also protecting the delivery that will follow on from that deal by having one blueprint. And what we see more and more in this AI world is that this one blueprint, rather than in the old days where it just almost died at the end of a project, in the world of AI, we see more of a living blueprint. So having a tool or a platform like Mavim will allow you and the customers to keep these blueprints and definitions alive. And with that, you'll see this, get the slides or get access to the slides. There's some resources that I'm not going to go through here, but that you will be able to see next Thursday. We have our next TechTalk on business processes. It is specifically around requirements. It is also by me, so you will be able to meet again. We'll be able to meet again next week. And with that, I will. Oh, sorry, I forgot. Please do give feedback. We're on this. I'm kind of either use the link on here. I can see that it's been posted in the Q&A as well, or scan the QR code. So do give feedback so we can make this better. And with that, I just want to say thank you very much for your time. And I really hope that you will be adopting a process-led sales motion rather than a feature-led one.
Yes, thank you, everyone.
Thank you. See you next week.